Hey guys, welcome to another After Effects tutorial. John Hartley here with you, and today we're going to be looking at some more ways to adjust your text and kind of stylize your text and get some nice looks going on. MimJack was asking me to kind of go a little more in depth to try and spruce up text so it's not just, you know, white on black. And actually, to show you a little bit of how to do that, I'm basically going to start from scratch. You can see over here in my effects panel, I have a lot of things lined up to take a look at. So just to warn you now, we're going to be going over some of the CC effects. If you have the trial version of After Effects, I'm not sure if they come with any of the CC effects, but if you have the full license, you can go ahead and use these. I will be going over some basic things first, so if you don't have the CC effects, don't worry about it right now. So first things first, let's recreate this background that I have back there. So I have my basic text, and now I want to make that solid background. So I go to Layer, New, Solid, make comp size, say OK. And now over here in Effects and Presets, go to Ramp, drag ramp onto that. And you can see that we get that ramp immediately. Now we're actually going to move this layer down to the bottom so that we can see our text. And now we can kind of style our ramp. I'm going to zoom out a bit and go ahead and click on the ramp. Start of ramp, we'll move it to the center, bottom of the ramp. And you can see how there are these little crosshairs right here. And that's actually what I tend to use instead of adjusting these over here. So I can move this down, and I'll use a radial ramp. So there we go. Let's bump this color to a light red and make this color a darker red. Let's actually make this one a little darker. And all right, there we go. The thing to look out for with this is that if you export, some other programs won't really keep this looking as nice as it is right now. You can play with the scatter a little bit, and that sometimes helps the ramp, but the majority of the time it's not going to export quite as well once you use a different program. Like Final Cut Pro won't. If you import this into, say, Final Cut Pro and then try to use it as part of a project, you're going to get rings around the outside. So if you can figure out a solution for that, you know, let me know so that I can let other people know. Alright, so now we have that ramp, and now we can go ahead and start adjusting our text. The first thing that I want to do is go up to Layer, Layer Styles, and let's add a outer glow. And so when you add that outer glow, the text layer will drop down, and you can see Layer Styles, Blending Options, Outer Glow, which is what we just added. So what we can do is then change the blend mode, we'll keep it at screen, change the opacity, we'll keep it at 75, and then you can kind of go through all of these settings. I'll change this to a pink, and spread. I'll show you the difference between spread and size right here. So spread, that really kind of makes it a thick glow. And then when you bump the size up, you could really see what that spread does. And so spread is not what we want. We want to keep that down. And so now we can see that we have that glow effect going on. And you can change this to softer and precise. And precise kind of looks like an outer bevel. So we're not going to use that. We'll change that back to softer. Then go up to Layer, Layer Styles. We'll go back to Bevel and Emboss. I covered this on an earlier tutorial, but I really like the effect, so we'll keep it at Inner Bevel, Smooth, Depth, we'll bump it up, and the size is another thing you can bump up. And watch how, as you adjust this, it reaches a certain point where it just looks like crap. So you gotta find that fine line where it's in between looking good and looking terrible. And then soften. This will kind of smooth things out. And once you do that, you'll probably have to bump down the size. And so, okay, you know, there we go. There's a different looking text, and we'll go ahead and keep that. So now I want to start getting into some of the different effects and presets that you can use. And the first one I'm going to show is Vegas. Vegas is a very powerful effect, and I haven't quite figured out all of this. I know Video Copilot has a great tutorial on how to use this, but as you can see, you get kind of these little dots, the Vegas effect being the lights on the Vegas Strip, and you can change the threshold. As I do that, watch how it adjusts around the text, and so all these little dots are changing. So play around with that and see if you can get some type of effect you like. Change the keyframes and the tolerance, turn that up. Pre-blur, you can turn that down or turn that up. And so you're starting to get some crazy effects now. And that's really something that you may never use, and it could be something that you think is awesome. So I'll go ahead and turn that effect off. And how I did that was just going over to my effect controls panel and just clicking on the FX. By doing that, I can turn it off while keeping it in there. So now I'll scroll down and let's take a look at Bezier Warp. And you can find this by just typing in Bezier Warp. And what happens with this is you're going to get all these little dots around the outside. And when I go ahead and turn that effect on, you can see that I've adjusted these. And so now my text is kind of morphing with the Bezier grid. And just to show you what you can do with this, I'm going to go ahead and create keyframes for all of those and bump ahead to 4 seconds. And then I'll adjust this some. Let's get crazy. Alright, and now you can see everything's going to move back, and so now we have an animation. And Mimjack is moving around and kind of meshing with that Bezier Warp. Okay, so we'll turn that off. Let's move back up to CC Sphere. Now again, this is a CC effect, so you may not have it. Go ahead and turn that on, and as soon as you do, your text turns into a sphere. And so we'll take a look at some of the settings here. The radius, you can change that by bringing it down, bringing it up, and that'll adjust whatever you have. And this works for images too, which is kind of cool. So you can do like a globe or a baseball or something, but you have to make sure that the layer you have will allow for that, and you start to run into trying to get it to look seamless, and that's tough, but there are tutorials out there to help you do that. Another cool thing that you can do is change the rotation. So I'll just show you here. There we go. That is an actual sphere, and we can rotate it on the x-axis, we can rotate it on the y-axis. So let's add a keyframe here at the beginning of our timeline, and then we'll add one at the end. We'll just change that 0 to a 1. And now if we go back to the beginning of the timeline and scrub through, we can see that our sphere does a full turn. You can also adjust the light intensity. You can adjust the light height. Just all these different settings and things that, it's going to depend on your project and what you're actually working on. So we'll go ahead and turn that effect off, and we're back to our regular text. And now let's go to, since we're in the CC effects already, CC Mr. Mercury. Now this one is pretty interesting. I hadn't used it before this tutorial, so let's turn that on. I turn that on, and what in the world just happened? I go back to the beginning, and it's basically a generator, kind of like Particle World, and you get all these little words just kind of floating around. It's very bizarre, but a very cool effect at the same time. And you can adjust a lot of these settings, change the blob size, blob birth size, and I just scrub through here, and you can see that, maybe this is underwater or something. You have a shot of a creek and you want to put text on the creek and make it look like it's moving with the water. you could use CC Mr. Mercury to kind of pull that effect off. So let's turn that off and let's get sad. It's Valentine's Day, so let's get sad. Here's some rain. Oh, it's so sad. In the rain amount, you can adjust that, and speed. Let's make it rain sideways. Now we're starting to get almost into a sketch type of look, and maybe that's something that you want to pull off, and that works. So let's switch from rain to snow. And so this is kind of cool because if you have a Christmas video that you're working on, you can just toss snow right in there without a problem. CC Burn Film is one of the coolest effects from the CC Effects package, I think. And again, these all come with the standard version of After Effects, but not the trial version. So I'll turn off the keyframe that I created, and I'll go ahead and turn it back on, create one there, and then create one at 3 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and just scrub through the burn until it's gone. And so now, if we scrub through, we can see that it is actually kind of burning the word up. And one thing that you can adjust here is you can adjust the center, and that's where the burn will start. And the other thing you can adjust is random seed. And this kind of dictates what type of burn is going to happen. And so you can see these black spots are changing, and the black spots are basically where the burn starts. So we'll just drop it down to 0 and see what happens. And so that's kind of just a generic burn. But if we change it to, let's say 790, and these numbers go really high really fast, you can see that that's a different look. What happens if we create a keyframe at 790, and then where's this end? Right there. Create a keyframe, make it 0. As it goes through, it's going to really change that random seed, and that's going to give you a look of it jumping around. That's probably not what you're going to want, and so you can just take that off, and then you just have your standard burn. But at the same time, who knows? I don't know what your project is. So you got to look now at what you can do with some different text effects and kind of really ramp up what you've done with your text and really start to make your video pop. If you would still like to learn different ways to do this, I can go a little further and try to create some other text tutorials, start going into some masking and things like that. If that is something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to get on that as soon as possible. Until next time, I'm John Hartley. Thanks for watching.